Have private DBQs in VA benefits been banned? Welcome back to the channel, folks. Dr. Sharma here, physician, board-certified psychiatrist, and Air Force veteran. Now, this new development, which is a law that has already been passed, is really concerning, and it has to do with what veterans have access to when applying for claims. Now, if you want a good analysis of this, check out Clay's video from the CivDiv. That's who I heard it from. I'll link it below. It's fantastic, as is his channel. As he says in the video, bada bing, bada boom, it's already been passed. Basically, a law has been signed stating that the VA secretary has discretion about which DBQs can be excluded from publication if he or she determines that it could not be reasonably completed to a clinically acceptable standard by someone not an employee or a contractor of the department. Now, let me be clear, as of me recording this on January 3rd, 2025, the public DBQs are still available on the VA website. No public DBQs have been removed, and the law does not state that existing DBQs can be struck down or anything like that. Just that DBQs can be excluded from publication, which I take to mean new DBQ forms in the future. I could be wrong. Now, if you want to check on this, all you have to do is type into Google VA public DBQs, and you can see if the links are still there whenever you're watching this video. However, this is really concerning to me because it takes considerable power away from the veteran in the claims process, a process in which one can argue that veterans' power is already very weak. If a DBQ is withheld from publication for, let's say, mental disorders, this means that the veteran can't pursue an outside provider or even their own treating provider outside of the VA system to complete the form and potentially submit a fully developed claim. Now, let's keep in mind, fully developed claims are good because they save time and money within the VA system. This also means that then the veteran would have to solely rely on the CMP examiner capturing all the pertinent information, considering all the past history, making an assessment on the case, rendering a medical opinion on the nexus and severity. Now, I want you guys to chime in on the comments. What do you think about that? And give me your own experiences. Now, let's look closely at the language of the law itself. It states that a DBQ could be withheld from publication if the secretary determines that it could not reasonably be completed to a clinically acceptable standard outside of the department. So what does that mean? If you ask me from a medical psychiatric standpoint, I don't see any way in which a DBQ could fall into this category. And correct me if I'm wrong, if you guys can think of a scenario, but what scenario would there be where an outside provider cannot complete a DBQ to acceptable clinical standards? What special specific knowledge does that VA provider have or the CMP examiner have that the outside provider doesn't? Remember, this law specifically states that the DBQ could then be completed by an employee or contractor of the department. So it could be done by a provider working at a VA medical center. But we know this doesn't happen in the real world. I've never seen a DBQ completed by a treating provider within the VA. I'm not saying it doesn't happen ever, but I certainly haven't seen it, as they usually call it a conflict of interest. Now, to be fair, there are certain scenarios I can think of when a particular type of evaluation would require an in-person exam, right? So, for instance, a lung condition that requires the provider to listen to the lungs, a neurological condition that requires the examiner to test the person's strength and reflexes. Yes, that is all very possible and it makes sense. But from what they're saying, clinically acceptable standard, I still can't think of any scenario in which a public DBQ should just be withheld from publication entirely and not given to those who need it. Currently, and this has been the case for a long time, I know of 2 DBQs that are internal only, meaning that they can only be completed by a VA provider or contractor. First is the TBI DBQ, and second, the initial PTSD DBQ. The review PTSD DBQ is available. Personally, I believe these DBQs should also be public. I don't see any reason why they shouldn't. Last thing I had on this, if you guys are wondering what my plan is, don't worry. Let's say in the future a DBQ is withheld from publication and it's a condition that I deal with. I already have a strategy, that is, I'm gonna incorporate all of the information from the DBQ and regulations into my medical opinion. So all the information will be there in the order in which they expect it, okay? This is what I do already with the TBI DBQ, since it's internal only. I just include all of the information in the same order as the internal DBQ. It's easy to read, all the information is there. So basically, we will roll with it. But again, I don't think this is a good move, to say the least. It takes considerable power away from the veteran in this process. The power imbalance or differential just becomes even more significant than it already was before. That's it for today's video. I hope this was helpful for you guys to take a deeper look into this new law and public DBQs potentially being withheld from publication in the future. If you found this helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. It really helps and it tells me that I'm doing something right. Also, please drop a comment below about your thoughts on the topic, and if you have requests on what to cover in the future, I'd be happy to make a video on it. As always, thanks for watching. Dr. Sharma signing off. See you next time.